night when you should just sleep. I'm the song in your head that just...
Good evening, everybody. Today we have a special day, and I am so blessed and I'm so honored to have my friend in here on my show. And she is the Rhonda L. Thompson. She's a speaker, she's a coach, she's a counselor, she's a radio talk show host, she's a TV host for 2 separate shows. She's also actress, she's also a model. And Rhonda, can you please introduce yourself the way that you always introduce yourself?
Hi, Lona. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, there's only one way I know how to introduce myself, and it's this way. I am Rhonda L. Thompson, better known as Rhonda T in ATL. I am the radio talk show host of Rhonda's Room on Power 108.9 in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am the TV host of Rhonda's Room on Site with Rhonda and Over the Top TV. And I am so happy to be here.
That is so excited. I had so much energy already coming from you. I can tell that you love what you do and you do what you love, Rhonda. It comes out from your energy and from your personality. This is so exciting.
Thank you.
But when people see you, when people, talk to you, when you talk to the people, they think that, they do not see the background. They do not see what made you the person, the woman you are today. And I know that you have shared with me your past, your story. And to be honest with you, it dropped my mouth. I dropped my jaw because it was so empowering. It was so mind-blowing. And I know you had some kind of resilience in your life. You also have strived in your life and thrived at the same time as well to get to the point that you are now. But there was a turning point in your life, and there was also low moments in your life as well. If you don't mind, please share with us.
Okay, I don't know how in depth you want me to go or how detailed.
You feel comfortable.
And I'm also going to be very aware of the audience because where I come from, it's not pretty. There's no pretty way to describe it. There's no pretty nice thing to put on it. I'm just going to say it the way it is. That's the only way that I know how to be. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about me.
Yes.
And I will preface this by saying, no offense to anybody. Okay. You'll get it in a minute. I am 54 years old. I'm Italian. I am from New York. I cuss, and I've had a hard life with different things coming up. So if some things slip through, don't judge me by that. You got to understand where I've been before you know where I've come through. I have a definite sphere of influence with people, a certain group of people. And my people are the people that most of them don't go to church. Most of them, you're not going to find them there. They're going to be doing the same things that I was doing. And I know that's where my ministry is. And I know that's why my life was what it was, so that I could come through that, because that makes me more readily relatable to the people that I serve. So I may look different than your typical guest. I might sound different than your typical guest.
That's why you're on my show. I love it.
But however, I don't know how to be anything but who I am, and that is authentic. So,
yes.
All right, I'll give you the short version. Okay. Okay, and I'll be very careful with my details. All right, so my past is full of a lot of sexual, physical, mental abuse. Started when I was 8 years old. First time I had sex with somebody was I was 8 years old. And it was because my cousin molested me. Fast forward, my mother's boyfriends. There was a gentleman that we had to call him Sir John because he was English. And he was molesting me repetitively in the home from the time I was 12 to about 14. And I never told anybody. And that's because he told me that he would hurt my sister if I told anybody. And there's a whole backstory with my sister, which is the reason why that fear alone paralyzed me with what he said, that I didn't say anything. My mother was an alcoholic. She never admitted it, but she was a full-blown alcoholic. And there was many times that I was the one that was left to care for me and my sister. I was the one that had to cook. I got my first job when I was 14 years old to buy school clothes for me and my sister, because my mother was always blasted somewhere. Now she worked very hard. This is not to negate my mother or to say anything. She did the best of what she could with what she knew, and judging from where she came from, what she was providing us was paradise compared to her life. And that's a whole nother story. So fast forward a little bit further. My mother had a few boyfriends that were in and out of the house. I found out later. I didn't find out. I figured out that, there was different men to pay different bills. And so, there was always uncles in my house, friends. And then one of them was molesting my sister at the same time that I was getting molested, which was a different man. So we were both getting molested by two different men at the same time. And my mother walked in and caught him in the act with my sister and got him arrested and everything like that. And I thought that was my time to tell, oh my gosh, I've been going through this for so long. And when I told my mother, I was like, mom, Sir John's been doing this to me since blah, blah, blah. And she slapped me in the face. She said, you lying slut. I'm never going to lose another man because of you.
Wow.
So that let me know right then and there that I wasn't safe in my own home. And at that moment, I forfeited my voice. So I got pregnant when I was 13 by another one of my mom's boyfriends, his son. He would come to my mother's house with the son. He was married. He was a chief of police, and he used his son to cover up seeing my mom and left this 17-year-old boy with the 13-year-old girl. So at 13, I got pregnant. Now, because of what had happened previously, I did not tell my mother. And so nobody knew about that. And I didn't tell anybody for a year. My guidance counselor from high school took me to get an abortion. And so I got pregnant when I was 13. I had my first abortion at 13 as well. Fast forward again. All I wanted to do was get out of the house. So I joined the Marines. And I was getting hurt. And I've been hurt so much in my own home that I wanted to take on the hardest position possible so that nobody would hurt me again. And I was modeling full time, and I scored the highest on all my tests. I could pick whatever I wanted, and the Marines was going to be my way out. And that was going to be my way to see the world. That was going to be my way to get out of this house and everything. So all that's good and fine. Then Desert Storm started. I was not going to Desert Storm. I did not join the Marines to serve my country. I could care less. At that time, I was trying to get out of the house. So I was like, I got to get out of the Marines. How do I get out of the Marines? And at that time, there was only one way you could get out, and that was if you were pregnant. So I stopped taking a birth control pill. And this was my, oldest daughter's father. And he thought, now he was a professional boxer, very well-known, famous professional boxer. And he thought I did that to trap him, but I didn't. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was 18 at the time, and I was trying to get out of the Marines. I did not realize that a baby was forever. I didn't even think about it. I was like, got to get out of the Marines, get pregnant. Didn't even put two and two together at that time that a baby would be forever. So he thought I was trying to set him up to ruin his career, which I was not. And that is when he started hitting me. And he was the first man to hit me. And that's just the basics, high level, extremely high level of the foundation. That's where it started. And yeah, it gets deeper after that. So I'm going to take a breath.
Rhonda, to be honest with you, first of all, thank you so much for trusting us and our audience to share your life. I know it's probably very painful, very hard for you to do it, but it takes bravery, it takes courage to share what you have just shared with all of us about your life. And I know there's some of the people out there, some of the women, some of the girls who are struggling with voicing their pain, their voice, right? What they're hiding from, what they're going through. So going through all of these things, what would you suggest? What would you tell to this girl who is going through right now with the same problems and
Right.
who is being molested, who cannot share with anybody because nobody would believe her?
Right.
What
And
would
see,
you tell her right
that's
now?
the thing. Here's the thing. And let me just preface this by saying this doesn't hurt anymore. My story doesn't hurt. This is my, that was my platform for my ministry and for
Yes.
everything that I do. So I have no pain talking about my story anymore because I'm not there anymore. But that's where I came from. Now,
Yes.
for the person that is in a relationship where you are getting molested, or you, and it could be it could be a domestic relationship, a partnership, a marriage. You can get raped in your marriage. I've been raped in my marriage. We'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody is doing anything to you physically, sexually, emotionally, that you are not safe, number one is you need to make a plan to get out of that house some kind of way. But here's the key. You never, ever tell your abuser you're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my oldest daughter's father was the first man to hit me. Several followed after that because, see, I had developed now this thing that I wasn't worth keeping because when my parents split, I was 2 years old. And then when all this stuff was happening to me, and then when I finally got the courage and I told my mom and she said what she said, and I felt that that's it, I was on my own, then I learned now that not only did my voice not matter, but what was being done to me was okay.
Yes.
And it wasn't okay. And then I got this mindset that that's all that I was worth. So I then became very promiscuous because, see, all I ever wanted was to be loved
Yes.
properly. So I would sleep with anybody. There's people I don't even know their name that I have slept with. I'm like, oh my God, what was that person's name? And the thing is, people have addictions of different kinds. My mother was an alcoholic. There was a lot of addiction in my family. However, I know now as an adult, and that's the whole catalyst why I got into counseling and the things that I did, is I had a sex addiction, and a sex addiction has nothing to do with sex. It's an intimacy disorder.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was looking to be loved. That's all I wanted, was to have a normal family and love. So I would allow certain things to happen because, number one, I didn't think I was worth saving because my mother didn't save me. She saved my sister. So that was a psychological message that I don't matter, that I'm not worth keeping. And so if I'm not worth keeping or saving, then I'm not going to value myself. And so when things would happen, and then I started to attract that same type of relationship over and over and over, because what you feel in your core belief of who you are is what you attract.
It's like law of attraction. Yes.
Yeah. And there's a psychological phenomenon called a repetition compulsion,
Yes.
where we constantly create the same scenario as an adult, trying to change the story when we were little. So we get into the situation over and over and over again, hoping for a different outcome, but we never do something different. So that's how and why you get into the same cycle that you do. So the person that is going through this, number one, if you did tell somebody that it's happening and they didn't believe you, don't stop there and don't think that your voice doesn't matter, because that shut me down for the majority of my life. You just have to get to a person that is going to believe you. Now, to the people that, if you have somebody that is telling you they are being molested or they are being abused, the worst thing you can do is not believe them, because now you're victimizing them twice. And now you're making them think that it's their fault. And that was told to me so much. Well, you know what? He's never done that to anybody else. It must be you. He's such a nice guy. And he was an awesome guy to everybody else, but he was a narcissist. And, so he was a Jekyll and a Hyde. He was one way here and he was another way with me. And nobody ever saw that side. So you have to believe the person. But if you are in danger, there's shelters all over the place. you know, and you can contact your local area shelter. If you don't know what one is in your area, United Way has got a great line you can call, 211, from anywhere. And they'll give you a listing of resources 24 hours, 7 days a week. And they'll tell you, just say, hey, I need an emergency shelter. And, you know, they'll put you into contact with your local area. But you need to get out of the situation, but you never tell the abuser you're going to leave, because then that's when it escalates even more. Like,
yes, it's a control thing. It's going to be very worse. And Rhonda,
Yeah.
you said something about your mom. And
Mhm.
what did your mom mean to you, and why her approval and her protection? You said she didn't protect you, she protected your sister. What did that mean at that moment when she didn't believe you, and what she meant to you in your life? Can you share that?
Well, my mother was everything. I mean, I spent my whole life, you know, I know now looking back, I didn't realize it then. We were so neglected. We were so neglected. We were left alone all the time. And we were both starving for any attention from my mom. Now, my mother was real good at creating memories. She was real good at making you feel like, you know, you were special when she would give you her time. So we would try to do, me and my sister ended up competing against each other a lot of times. And I would try to do everything I could just to see a smile on my mom's face, just to make her day happy and stuff like that. And so when you're in, yeah, it's called, you know, children of alcoholic parents syndrome. That when you're in a relationship like that, it actually becomes a codependent relationship. Yes. Where the roles are changed, where the kids take on the roles of the parent. And I took that on. So then I became, since I'm the oldest, and this happens consistently with mothers and daughters, especially the oldest, is they're harder. You would think they would save their daughter and, you know, do everything they can, but they really don't. They're actually jealous of them. And I knew that when she said, I'm not going to lose another man because of you. So it's like, when I look back now and I analyze my own situation, just like I do my clients, it's like all the signs were there. She told me exactly what was going on. I just didn't understand it at that time. But then I found out later, looking at her life, man, her life was hell on earth. So I can see now there's another psychological phenomenon that is, if nobody saved her, why are you so special? Even though you're my oldest daughter. So she allowed it to happen because nobody saved her.
Yes.
So it's like, and it gets deeper because he paid all the bills. He provided all this stuff. So I was the exchange. And in essence, in her mind, maybe, I don't know, because my mother's not here anymore, maybe there was a part that thought I was helping the family. I don't know how that would be possible, because my thing is, I'm the exact opposite as my mother, which usually happens. You're either going to be just like your parents or the exact opposite, where I would kill, I don't care, I'd go to jail in 2 seconds. Let me find out somebody is hurting one of my kids, and that's it. I don't care who they are. I'm coming after them, like, period. And I'm going to believe them the first time they tell me something, because of what happened to me.
Yes, that is very like heartbreaking even to hear about that, when somebody goes, you know, struggling because of the family members, because we rely on our families because they are there to protect us, because, you know, they brought us into life, which means our job, our mission, our, you know, vision for life, and it's to protect the creation that God had given to our lives. Let me ask you this. In what point have you forgiven your mom? And
that was a
how
long
did it
time
come
ago.
along? How did that happen? You know, I know you probably grew up out of that. You know, you grew up in a relationship, you grew up in developing your identity. So how did it come along? You know, how did it happen?
Okay, now I forgave my mom a long time ago, but with a lot of the other things that happened, that was just the beginning. Like, that's just the very beginning. There's so many other things that have happened in my life from that time on all the way through adulthood. But this is going to offend some. I was so mad at God. I was so pissed off at God. I was like, what the crap? Who in the world do you think you are? And I'm like, you ain't God. How are you? I was so angry And I was like, the way I talk to God is just like I'm talking to somebody one-on-one. And that freaks a lot of people out. But then again, you know, when I got married the first time, you know, he was a minister, and I played the whole, I tried to fit in. I didn't fit in there. And I tried to be a first lady and blah, 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 blah. I can't lie. If I'm upset, I'm upset. I can't do the fake, the phony nonsense. I can't. So, and God gets me. He understands me because he made me. So for me to sit there and pretend to do something one way that somebody else would, that's not going to fit. Because I know God himself will be like, okay, Rhonda, when you get back to yourself and you're talking to me and be like, what the hell? Okay, then we'll talk, because I know that's you that I'm talking to. Okay. So, but for me, when I was so angry, I remember, because I couldn't understand why my mom would allow that. And so so long, I became numb. I was on autopilot for years and years and years. And I just started dealing with this as an adult, going back, trying to fix those things within me, doing my own journey. And I was able to see, I started thinking back, it was when I started with my psychology training. I started looking at her like she was a client. What would I do? She became my case study. So I got all her background information. So I took all the pieces, that the little bit she told me through the years. I was like, okay, so let me put this together. Let me put this together. Let me put this together. What did it look like from her point of view? So I was able to see from her perspective. And so now, where I thought the worst thing in the world was moving us from New York to the country, to the Poconos, that was the greatest gift she could have ever given us. Because I found out later, I thought we lived in all these places in New York that were so far apart. And a few years back, we went to a wedding, and I hadn't been back to Buffalo since I was a child. And we went around to the different addresses. And do you know, Ilona, every one of my addresses was within a 4-block radius. And I did not realize that. And my mother, where she grew up, she was in the same house. So for her to go all the way to the country, to a whole nother state, was huge. And she did that for her daughters, because she wanted me and my sister to have a better life than she did. And there was no city around, because for her, the city was dangerous for her. So she gave us a paradise. So then I started to see a mother's heart. And then I started to see, you know, she hurt so much and she never got healed. She never talked about it. So I was able now to have compassion and empathy for my mother. And I was able to see, wow, what would I have done? Because now at this point, I had 5 kids of my own. And, you know, it's different when you have your own children. You do whatever you have to. And you can see from a different perspective. So I was able to see her through God's eyes, not my anger. And, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, she's hurting too. And that was when I first started to really realize hurting people hurt other people out of their own hurt. You know, when you're hurt, you bleed all over other people. You can't help it. And it's not that you're a bad person. You don't know any different. You have a filter on and your heart is hurt. And so you see, hear, feel, and do everything from a place of hurt. So now I had compassion for my mom. And that's how I was able to forgive her. And it's something she never talked about and she would never admit.
Yes. What would you change if you would have understood it right now? And if your mom would be here, what would you want to tell her right now?
I don't think there'd be anything, because the whole time she was here and she was alive, and this year is going to be 10 years that she's gone. Her birthday is March 28th, which I found out me and you have the same, our mothers are the same birthday. I let her know while she was here how much I loved her, how much I honored her and stuff like that. And I saw how uncomfortable it was for her. I tried to talk to her about it a couple of times and she just changed. And I saw how painful it was for her. And I was like, you know what? We don't need to go there.
Yeah.
We don't need to go there. I love you too much I don't need to get revenge. I don't need to see you squirm. I don't need to hear you say, I'm sorry. You know, sometimes the hardest apologies to accept are the ones you never receive. But then it's also the greatest act of love to forgive somebody for somebody you'll never get an apology from, because me holding that in kept me blocked in. And so when I was able to remove all of that, I was able to even love my mom even more, you know, and always tell her and always show her how much I loved her, how much I honored her. And I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't.
So like you understood that why it happened, what it happened and I know that it made you stronger. I know it made you the person that you are right now. And I know there's always something that from the bad situation, if we extract something good that always comes out of it. It's always hard to see at that moment. But years back, you can always go back and really, have your mind sober to think about what had happened. And I know you also mentioned something about being mad at God, and also like his conversation with you with regards of being fake when your heart is broken. Don't smile if you don't feel like it. Don't be joyful, and you felt like you had to do it when you were at the church, but at the same time it made you feel uncomfortable. You know how many people right now at the churches, ministers, servants, the pastors out there who are in the same situation. Who are struggling, being, covering up with a facade that they always have to protect, their reputation that they have to always protect, right? And this is such a painful thing that we are living right now in the world. So I know you went through, you being the wife of the minister, and you went through this thing. I'm going to ask you again the same thing. So talking to this woman right now who is trying to cover up, their pain, going through the church, being the pastor's wife who is probably going through some kind of abuse herself, mental, emotional, or even physical abuse. So like, how can she get her voice out there, and how can she break it through her fakeness and hiding, and stop hiding her pain behind her smile? What would you say to her right now?
Okay. All right. Girl, I hope you know what you're asking me, because
we have to break some chains out there,
All right.
with some kind of things.
I'm gonna have to. No, I'm gonna stop prefacing it. No, I'm not gonna preface it. You either gonna be ready for it or you're not, and that's all there is to it. I can't be nobody but who I am. I'm not. If you can't handle this conversation, whatever. Okay. Number one. I do absolutely love and believe in God. Absolutely. Church, I can't stand church. I have no tolerance for church anymore, because I have been hurt so many times by all the crap that goes on in church. Now, I have a pastor who I love and adore, but the religious garbage that goes on in church, I ain't got time for that. Okay. And I know my pastor, and I've had many prophecies over me, and I believe in prophecy and I operate in it, believe it or not, and I operate in certain gifts, but I'm a different kind of person. Okay. But then when you look at it, everybody Jesus called, not one of them was a freaking church person. So every last one of them was a mess. And that's where I fit in, because I found my tribe. That's when I realized, when I really started studying myself, and I realized, doggone it, all these people, Jesus messed around with everybody that nobody else would deal with, and stuff like that. And the people that called people out, especially in church. And my pastor had told me before, he's like, Rhonda, you better get ready, because you're going to have a lot of people that get upset with you, because I will call it out in 1 second. I've been married twice. And the first time he was a minister, and both my husbands are Black, and I was brought up Roman Catholic. So, because I'm Italian. Now, I started studying myself and everything to learn, and I have my beliefs and what I do and stuff like that, but that was a whole lifetime of learning. But what I do know is this. Number one, in both of those marriages, the pastors were the worst people to give advice. They gave advice that would kill you. I had one person, my second marriage was physically abusive as well. He got addicted to pain meds. And I had the mother of the church come and say, well, if you just rebuke him in the name of Satan, I'm like, you need to shut up and sit down. Because number one, if you got somebody coming at you that is angry and you sit there and you're going to try to rebuke him in the name of Satan, he is going to kill your ass. I'm sorry. You're going to be dead. And don't try to pick up a phone and call 911 in front of somebody, because they're going to be like, oh, you're calling 911? Bet. We're going to make sure you leave in a body bag. And you cannot tell somebody, oh, just pray and it's going to be okay. Prayer does not change somebody who is abusing you. Now, you can pray all you want, but God gave you some common sense too. Get out of the house. And I had a pastor, the second marriage, tell me, well, you know what, Rhonda, God doesn't believe in divorce. I'm like, well, he sure don't believe in them bashing my head in neither. And well, you know, and then he said, well, I haven't had any divorces. You'll be the first. So that put an obligation on me. So I stayed
responsibility
for extra years because I didn't want to make the pastor look good. And I finally got to the point where I was like, God, look, I don't give a freaking crap about this pastor and what he got to go through. I'm getting out of this relationship, and you know why. And, for the woman that is trying to put on a facade like I did, it ain't going to work, sweetheart. It's not going to work. You can only keep up a facade for so long.
Yes.
And, you know, if the truth has a way of settling, if it don't feel good in here, and if it doesn't rest in your spirit, if you're not comfortable, if you're not getting fed at the place you are, go to another freaking church. Get out from under there. Who cares what those people say? Pastors are not. Who the doggone cares? They are not God. Sorry. You don't have to answer to not one person on the face of this earth. Not one, pastor or not. They are not God. And when they try to say, you have to do this and you have to do that, oh no, now you don't walked into the place of where you think you're God because you cannot tell another person what they have to do. That's up to the person. Now, if you are finding yourself in a position where you got to fake anything, that's a red flag. If you can't be authentically free and to be yourself, you're not in the right place, you know? And if someone's trying to constrain you or restrict you, like I had somebody come up to me one time, and I don't wear super short skirts or anything like that. And I got big legs, you know. I wore a regular size dress, came up, you know, midway between my knee and my thighs when we sit down. And all these women come up, throw these lap cloths over me. I'm like, are you kidding me? And they're like, don't you want a cloth? I'm like, no. Well, you know, the men are going to be tempted. I'm like, I don't give a damn if the men are tempted. That's not my problem. I'm not sitting here with my legs wide open. You control your own husband. You control your deacon. I don't got nothing to do with that. You know, so it's like they try to put you into, well, oh, if they look or if they say, then you're doing something wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not my job to watch everybody in office. Okay. You got to keep yourself in a position. And if you are faking how you feel and you're not comfortable, then God doesn't want you to be anywhere that you can't fully be who you are. Because see, here's one thing I do know. God loves uniqueness. He can't stand when people go with the flow. He loves uniqueness. That's why we're all unique. That's why we all have a gift. And it's the people that dare to step out to do the things that he says. Noah gonna go build an ark? That's not normal. Okay, so he loves uniqueness. And you have gifts and voice and reasons that you only can do that nobody else can. So you got to be confident in who God made you to be. And if something doesn't sit right with you, I don't care if it comes from the pastor. If it don't sit right with you, you're not safe. You pray and you ask God what to do.
Yes,
and God will
not
guide
comfortable.
you.
Yes, get it out there and stuff.
God guides you, and he'll bring people in your pathway, and you'll start to get confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. And, that's one of the reasons I left Catholic. I mean, I didn't have a choice growing up. I'm like, why the crap am I going to go sit here and confess to a man and 20 Hail Marys? That ain't going to do nothing. When I can talk to God myself, I don't need you. That doesn't sit with me. Just like, and I'm not going to go confess all my stuff to a pastor, to a man on the earth. And based on your judgments, no, I can go to God myself, and I can repent, and I can, lay prostrate, and I can cry out to him, and he'll hear me because he knows who I am.
Yeah.
So you realize that you have your own relationship. Bump what everybody else thinks, and if you are a pastor, or if you are a leader in the church, I will say this respectfully. And I'm pleased, and I hope it doesn't come across that I have no respect for pastors, or I do. But what I don't have a respect for is when you take and abuse your spot and your position of authority. That I cannot tolerate. And I have no respect, and I will call you out every single time. And I will remind you, you are not God. Now you can seek God, but ultimately you are not God. So if people are serving you, and you're getting your ego all built up and stuff like this, because there was one church I went to that there wasn't even pictures of God on the wall. It was the pictures of this pastor all over the church. No. When you've elevated yourself above the people, or you got a whole entourage and you need bodyguards and stuff like that, come on. Or if you're so high and mighty now that you can't pray with the people, and you got this whole committee that you got to go through before you can actually sit with your pastor. Come on, that's about you now. You're not about serving the people no more, because there ain't nowhere in the Bible I saw anybody had to make an appointment to speak to Jesus. No, and he didn't have not one bodyguard with him, and he didn't turn anybody away. So if you are the type of pastor, you're like, well, gays are not allowed in my church. Prostitutes are not allowed in my church. You better be dressed a certain kind of way. You got to do this. No, it's all about you. And, if someone's coming to you saying they're being abused, and you're telling them God don't believe in divorce, you are costing that person their life. You are not qualified to counsel people, and you need to be righteous enough and mature enough to admit where you don't have talent, or where you don't have training, because there are literally things like, if you got somebody that's, going through, I don't even want to get into that, but because that'll get into a whole debate. If you're not qualified to speak on the subject,
It is a very deep subject. And
it is like, if you got somebody that is schizophrenic or bipolar coming in here and they're off their meds. Okay. Now I don't believe in meds, number one, but if somebody just stops their meds and you tell somebody to stop their meds and pray, you're killing that person, because the body's going to go through a natural withdrawal that the body can't handle. So it's like common sense. You're not qualified to tell somebody that. I've seen people die because my first husband, his brother died. He had a stomach thing, which could have been healed and corrected had they taken him to the hospital. They sat there and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and didn't take that boy to the hospital, and he died at 13. That was preventable. There was no reason for that. God gives us doctors for a reason. It's like, come on, common sense.
Common sense. And being treated with God said, one of my work that I have done for my school was a thesis, and I called it out as a dare to be different. And one of the points that I had to come across to let them know that, and I defended the relationship over the religion. And right now, and people do not understand the difference between religion and relationship. People think that religion is a God itself. Religion has nothing to do with God. Religion is made by the man of a man's hands. So it's created by the rules, by the standards, by their expectations that have nothing to do with God's standards, by his mercy, by his grace. Right. And one of the things I said, dare to be different. You don't have to be just like everybody else to be loved by God. You do not have to, comply yourself and behave yourself in order to be accepted by him. And another thing is also, I said, you have to know your identity and love yourself and allow God to love you.
Yeah.
so he can accept you. And that will be the breakthrough in your life, that it can help you to strive and see value in yourself the way God sees in you. Because if you put your faith and identity in the hands of the pastors or religion people, they are going to smash you and level you up on the ground with the ground.
Some, not
Yeah,
all,
because
some,
you do
will.
not feed,
Yeah.
you do not feel their expectations and their standards.
Yeah.
Religion standards like that. And I'm talking about those pastors that you have just described, and such, the one that like divert you, the pain, and not know the difference between God's voice and common sense, and all that their impulse versus God's voice. So those are the ones that are there. And of course, I want to piggyback on that they are people who really truly hear God's voice.
Oh yeah, of course.
There to really minister. Yes, there may be few, but they are powerful. And I know there's lots of people just like you. And my mom is in the same category. She loves God, but she cannot stand churches because the experience that she had in the past, that she saw the lies, she saw all of the things, and I cannot convince her right now to even attempt to try to trust somebody else at the church. And I know there's lots of great pastors out there who really love their people and want to see such a great influence in their lives. So Rhonda, let me ask you this one. Talk to me a little bit about your resiliency, about the power, the tools of resiliency, what made you strong the way you are right now. Because look what you have achieved, girl. You're like a super woman. You name it, you do it.
Thank you. Well, as far as resilience, I didn't realize until being an adult now that I am resilient, and I've always been resilient. The one thing that it came from is my mom. My mother was strong. That's one thing. My mother was my example for resilience. She came back through a lot of stuff, even though a lot of the situations weren't ideal for us. We didn't know it at the time. Like, we thought we had the best childhood. We didn't know we were dirt poor. We didn't know we were being neglected. We didn't know anything. The one thing, my strength comes from my mother. And, my mother is, to this day, got to be the strongest woman on the face of this earth that I've ever seen. And to see her take nothing and make miraculous things happen. And she always taught us, make memories that matter. Now I talked about a little bit about, some of the mistakes my mom made, but the goodness of my mother far outweighed the mistakes. Far. When she loved fiercely with everything she had. And me and my sister were her whole world. That's why she got up and left from New York to the Pocono. She gave up her whole life for her daughters and tried to make a different life than what she had. And she worked 3 and 4 jobs. She got caught up in some stuff, but her whole focus was to provide for her kids. And she learned, she didn't have to depend on a man to do it. And she had been hurt from various men, my father included. And my sister's got a different dad, and we didn't find that out until later. But she learned, and she showed us about being independent, about being strong, not waiting for somebody to give you something, but creating your own. She showed us that. And whenever she had this saying that I always love, and I remind myself every now and then, whenever everything is hitting the wall or you're feeling horrible and blue, my mother would do this. And I never could understand how she would do it, but I do it now today. She's like, all right, Ron. And like, there was times when I was going through my first marriage when she was alive, I would call her when I'm going through stuff, and she would give the greatest advice. Believe it or not, she would give the greatest advice. And I said, Mom, I can't go. I can't do it no more. And I'm like crying and all this other stuff. And she's like, Ron, because everybody who is in my family, they call me Ron. I'm not Rhonda, I'm Ron. She's like, Ron, you know what you need to do? I'm like, what? And she's like, polar reverse. I'm like, what do you mean, polar reverse? Polar reverse. How do you feel right now? I'm like, I feel like crap. She's like, okay, polar reverse. Do something that makes you feel happy, And she's like, any moment you make a decision, you can pull a reverse. And she would do stuff like that. And I think now that's where I started getting my technique that I use on my clients, because my mother did it on me. And then she always told us to keep a sense of humor. And, keep a sense of humor through everything. Because if you can find humor in everything, you can, it's not that serious. It really isn't. And then her favorite scripture. Now I have her family Bible, which she would write notes in. It was a Catholic Bible that my father gave her when they got married. And I saw certain, and she gave it to me as a gift one day. And I treasured that because I know that she didn't play with God. She was real strict with her beliefs and stuff like that. And I would look at the scripture she would write. Her favorite scripture was this, and this is one thing she taught me. And this is what carried me through so many things. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And whenever I would get so frustrated where I couldn't go on no more, this too shall pass. Tomorrow's a brand new day. Pull the reverse, keep a sense of humor. And, this isn't going to kill you. You're going to get through this. You're going to figure it out. And if you screw it all up one day, tomorrow's a brand new day. And it was like little things like that was the foundation for my strength. And I saw her struggle to pay the bills. I saw her, try to put food together. I saw her making the apartment look nice, even though we had rats all over the place and roaches and stuff. And I saw her trying to scoot them away, but she couldn't afford anything anymore at that time. And she tried to make every house nice. And I saw her go past her circumstances over and over and over and over. And so I was like, you know what? Wow, if mom can do that, I definitely can do this. So, that was the foundation. But when I really learned resilience for myself was the moment I realized I can talk to God for myself and God hears me. That was it.
I love
that
it.
was it. Because now I'm like, look, you know what? God, okay. I'm like, all right, we need to have a talk. But the thing is with me is I talk to God all day long. I'm doing my dishes, doing whatever. And I have I'm like, man, you really something, God. Okay. That you make me laugh. I talk. That's the relationship that I have. And you said a key thing, the difference between relationship and religion. Religion is what destroys people. Relationship is what grows people.
Built it up. Mm-hmm.
So anybody who's caught up in religious, blah, 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 and from your religions come all the different denominations and blah, blah, blah. It's all man-made crap, to suit whoever is in charge of it. And, the relationship is key. That's the thing you want. And here's the thing. There's no right way to have a relationship with God. Your relationship is your relationship.
Yes.
That's it. It's unique. And you can't be anybody but you. And if somebody else gets offended, okay, who cares? This is not, let them have their relationship. This is your relationship. And, trust me, God gets you. He understands you. So you don't got to pretend. So the moment I realized I could be all myself, flaws and everything, and the story that in the Bible that gives me the most hope is because it was my story, is when they caught the woman in adultery and everybody wanted to stone her.
Yes.
And he said, who is amongst you without sin be the first to cast a stone? And it simply told her, go and sin no more. Mm-hmm. And the great thing is even if you mess it up, you can get it right again and you can keep going. And as long as there's breath in your body, there's hope. So all this stuff of, oh, you're going to hell. No, you're not. At the moment the last breath on earth, if that's your last breath that you totally receive God, then guess what? You're going to heaven. Just like the one who was crucified next to him. His entire life was distraught. Yes. So to tell people you're going to hell, number one, you don't have the right to say that. Stop saying that. Because God has a way of convicting people, You know, when if you constantly try to show people the wrong in them and you don't love on them, that's going to push them further away too. And God doesn't love us like that. God is a gentle God. Now, yeah, when you mess up and you got that relationship, oh, he gonna whoop your tail and let you know, but that's your relationship. But you can't be so hard with people and judgmental, because at the end of the day, you don't know what their destination is.
Exactly. Yes. Or what they've been through. Yes.
Yeah, and you don't know where they are. You don't know what they've come through. They may look like the worst person. And I'll give this example of my daughter. My one daughter's she was an addict, and she still struggles. And people don't understand. And one of the things that I do is I'm an addiction counselor, and she would take 25 Percocet a day. Wouldn't phase her. And she would call me and she's like, Mom, I only took 18 today. I'm like, that's awesome. That's incredible. You only took 18? People would hear me be like, what? What are you doing? And I'm like, you don't understand. Number one, for my daughter to trust me, especially this daughter, who, we had a severed relationship for long, for her to trust me, to tell me that, and then to, be vulnerable. Yes. I'm going to applaud that. Now, do I expect her to go from 25 Percocet to 1 in a day? No. Or a week or 2 weeks? No. And the fact that she's telling me, that's trust, that's progress. And then if she fell back, I'm like, that's okay. Let's get yourself picked back up and stuff like this. Now, there's a balance when you're working with an addict, because you can't enable them. There's a balance, but you can't. But see, for somebody on the outside, they'd be like, oh, she's just an addict. She's just this and this, but they don't know why she's taking those 25 Percocet. Her son, my grandson, was murdered on his 13th birthday. She's dealing with that. She was jumped into a gang when she was 13. She's dealing with that. She grew up with carrying razor blades under her tongue. She grew up with that. She has seen almost every person she loves, cousins and stuff like that, killed in front of her eyes. Her grandmother is a practicing witch. It's like you don't know what is behind her. So you can't judge somebody by what you see. Oh, I got this addict coming in here. Oh yeah, well, they're just this, they're doing this, and this. No, they're not. You can't judge them. And God wouldn't even judge them. And who are you to judge? Wow. God said, come to me, all ye who labor, who are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. You got a burden. Come as you are. He didn't throw no lap towel over somebody to cover them up. Yes. They come in smelling like weed. He didn't say, look, get out to church until you're sober. Yes, sober. No. That's where they belong. Yeah. He sat down with the sinners. He didn't partake in the sin, but he loved on them anyway. And he saw the greatness in them. And that's what I do. I see past people's mistakes. I see past their circumstance. I see the greatness in them. And that's what makes me an effective counselor, because I'll tell them on day one, I don't care what you did. I don't care. I get people straight out of prison who have killed people, who are the sex offenders, I'm like, I don't care what you did. You're my assignment. Your heart matters to me. And God trusts me with you. Yes. So that's a privilege. Yeah. And it's like, so God has a way of turning everything around now, to where I was getting abused and molested. Now I'm getting people that are doing it to other people. Now, if I can help them get healed, because 9 times out of 10, they were abused when they were little, and they're only repeating what they know. Hurting people hurt other people out of their own hurt. So if I can get the abuser healed, they're going to be a better father, a better husband, a better partner. If they're in the same sex thing, I don't care what kind of relationship you in. That's not my business. They're going to be a better version of themselves than to continue to hurt. So I'm going to care about their heart. I'm going to love them the way God would. That's awesome. I'm going to see them through God's eyes. I'm going to see who they were created to be and remind them of who they're created to be, and give them hope, because that's all people need, is just hope.
That's awesome. And Rhonda, like we have a different relationship with me and you. And the reason that I kind of clicked into you and we got, growing with our relationship, with what we know, the trust, is because how authentic you are. We say the way we say, we broke down the way we break down with our pain, with what we're going through. We name the things, events the way they are. We don't sugarcoat with anything. And I'm so honored to do the project together with you. We're not going to share it yet, but when it comes alive, we'll be able to, of course, share with everybody about that. But what I really love and what I really like honored and what I really like wanted for this interview to look like is authenticity. I know there's so many people will be watching this and they will be like, oh my goodness, I felt just like this. I wanted to say that, but I couldn't say it. But I wanted them to hear the real stories, the real people and events, the way that God touches them, the way that you talk to him, the way that he talks to you back, how you found him, how you put your relationship over the religion. And that's how, where you met, your God, that's where it all mattered. That's when you met your resiliency, right? In the point when you talked to God. And that's exactly what my channel is all about, to meet and become resilient and find this point of influence, the point of contact with him, in one way or another. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't see it, but sometimes we see it, we do not admit that what happened because it's not cool and stuff. But I love the Christianities right now turning into the different point, and believing in God is, finally starting to show up in this time of the COVID, where everybody's locked in and everybody feels depressed, stressed, and all the negative things right now. So Rhonda, I'm thankful so much to you about what you have done and what you're doing right now, how you touch and influence people at this moment. I've seen the results of your work. I've seen what you do out there, how you voice it. You're like a lioness who is not afraid to roar when it needs time to roar, and to protect the people that you come in contact with. That's what I love about you, girl. You're an influencer, as well as with all of your titles out there, and you need to know about that. I'm so honored to know you, girl. And I'm not going to say goodbye to you, but we are going to stop right now because we're going to have you back. And I'm so excited wherever God is taking you, girl. I'm your biggest fan, and I will always be there to support you and love you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And thank you for, the platform and the opportunity, and everybody that's watching. Thank you.
I'm not naturally ambitious. Life made me determined. I live to keep my dreams alive. I came to realization that in order to achieve anything in my life, I would need faith in myself and vision, determination and dedication. Most of my life required taking risks, to close my eyes and follow my heart. Sometimes I fell, many times I stumbled, but life did not forget about me. Life did not leave me staying down. Life never beats us down. It has no power to do so. It is hard to finally see, and I have not fully come to see it yet myself. But everything in life happens for the reason. And I started to understand difficulties build a strong character in us, shapes us, bends us, humbles us. It reveals to us our abilities to survive and strive, win, lose, and conquer. No matter what has happened to you in the past, in your childhood, or what is going on in your life at this moment, I am confident in saying it has no power to keep you from having an amazing future. I have released the most beautiful book ever written, a book that is going to change the world. This book uplifts people, awakens people, and sets them free. It sets a path for the new generation of forward-thinking individuals who are tired of the status quo, individuals who are highly creative and motivated to create a change. This is a book for individuals who push boundaries, who ask important questions, who find the way. It is the book for the warriors who do not just talk empty words, but who live and breathe what they say.
I'm that one more night when you should just sleep. I'm the song in your head that just
Up before the sun